Take a look at this. It looks like $1 million commercial, right? The kind that needs a massive crew, tons of expensive gear, the whole shebang. Well, what if I told you this was made in just one night, from home, with only 2 AI tools? It sounds impossible, but it's not. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it was done.
Okay, so before we dive into the how, let's get some perspective. To really understand just how big a deal this is, we need to look at the old way of doing things. You know, how these big, glossy commercials are usually made. And trust me, it's a massive, massive undertaking.
First off, the cost. For something that looks this good, a client is looking at a bill of, at the absolute bare minimum, $50,000. And honestly, that's just to get in the door. It usually goes way up from there.
And it's not just the money. You're talking about a crew of maybe 30 people. I mean, directors, camera ops, lighting, sound, the list goes on. The whole process, from the first idea to the final product, you're looking at a month, easy. It's just a huge, huge investment across the board, time, money, and people.
Okay, but this ad, it threw all of that right out the window. It wasn't made like that at all. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the new AI way.
So remember that 1-month timeline we just talked about? Yeah, forget it. This entire ad, from concept to final clips, was done in a single night. That's not just faster. It's a total collapse of the old way of thinking.
And that huge crew and all that pricey gear, gone. The creator only needed 2 things, a couple of powerful AI models. One, like a Nano Banana Pro, to create the still images, and then another, something like a Kling 2.6, to actually animate them and bring them to life. That's the entire toolkit. Seriously.
So how in the world do you actually do this? How do you go from just an idea to a full-blown ad? Well, let's walk through the creative process step by step. It started out super simple and then took a pretty wild turn.
Believe it or not, it all started with just 2 words, Santa and candies. Super simple holiday stuff, right? The creator plugged that idea into a prompt, tossed in a few cinematic keywords like anamorphic shot to get that movie look, and then just hit generate. They got a few options back and picked the best one. No complex storyboards, no weeks of planning, just diving right in.
And here's a really great pro tip that came out of this. If you want that cinematic vibe, use a 21:9 aspect ratio. You know, that super widescreen look. Why? Well, it turns out the AI was trained on tons and tons of actual movies that were shot in that format, so it just knows how to make it look good. It's a tiny change that makes a huge, huge difference.
Okay, so the first image was good. It was fine. But this is where the real magic started. The creator just asked a simple question. What if? What if Santa can't find his reindeer? And that one little question, it became the engine for the entire story.
So they went back to the AI, using its editing tools, they literally just erased the reindeer from the picture. Poof, gone. Then they prompted a new expression for Santa, changing him from jolly to just plain angry. And boom, right there, a story is born. Santa's mad. Why? His reindeer are gone.
So the big question is, where did the reindeer go? And the answer to that question became the crazy, amazing centerpiece of the entire ad. A full-on reindeer rave. Yep, you heard me. And this is where the AI was really pushed to its limits.
And wow, the results are just wild. Look at this stuff. The AI figured out how to put reflections in the DJ's sunglasses. It put headphones on the reindeer's head perfectly. It even animated them dancing on 2 feet. The motion is smooth, none of that weird melty morphing you sometimes see with AI. It even got the text right on the candy jar. I mean, these are details that just a few weeks ago would have been totally impossible.
And you know, this really gets to the heart of the new creative mindset. The creator said it's all about being playful, you know? Treating the AI less like a machine and more like a creative partner. When you just kind of play with it and trust the process, you end up with these amazing, surprising results you never could have planned for.
All right, so now we've got all these awesome, chaotic clips, right? We've got an angry Santa, we've got a reindeer rave, but a bunch of cool shots isn't a story. So the next step is to actually put it all together into a final, polished commercial. And this is where the old-school filmmaking skills really shine. The idea of fixing it in post-production is more important than ever. Think of it like this. The AI gives you all the raw ingredients, but it's the human editor who's the chef. You provide the story, the rhythm, the final polish that makes it all work.
And you can see just how much the editing shapes the story here. The creator dropped in some royalty-free music to match that chaotic party vibe. They swapped scenes around to build up the mystery. They sped up some clips to sync them to the music. They even realized they needed one last wide shot to set the scene, so they just went back and generated it. The point is, the AI is the tool, but the vision, that's still 100% human.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. We've seen the nuts and bolts of how this was made, but what does it all mean? What are the bigger takeaways here for anyone, and I mean anyone, who wants to create amazing-looking video? Well, when you put it side by side, the difference is just staggering. The old way, 50 grand minimum. The AI way, basically zero. A crew of 30 people becomes just one creator. A month-long project becomes a single night. The barrier isn't money or gear anymore. The new barrier is simply your vision.
And that leads us to the big, unavoidable truth of where we're at right now. That huge gap that used to separate a big professional studio from some kid in their bedroom, it's closing. And man, is it closing fast.
So I'll leave you with this. The thing that stops you from making something that looks world-class, it's not the gear anymore. It's not about having a huge team. The tools are here, and they're getting better every single day. Right now, the only thing separating you from the big leagues is your willingness to jump in and learn.